What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. I'm that Scottish nerd, and if you're interested in Pokemon trading card game content, gaming videos or movie reviews, then be sure to subscribe to my channel down below, as I bring those things to you multiple times a week. So make sure that you don't miss an upload by subscribing down below. Hopefully you all had a good Christmas and New Year's. If you've seen my previous video, which was a Christmassy themed Pokemon deck, then you're going to enjoy this one, because I've really been enjoying Arceus Dialga Palkia here, because putting it into any deck, just really cramming it in there, trying our best to make it fit into everything, that's what we're all about. So as I say, this makes everything better, and we're going to try it out by taking as many prize cards as possible. So with our Alter Creation GX attack here, if you're not familiar, it allows us to deal an extra 30 damage, as well as taking an extra prize card. So we can do this on the first turn, going second, because we have the inclusion of Double Dragon Energy, so we're able to use that for one attachment. We have 3 of those so that we can hopefully start with it, but we're comboing it here today with Articuno. Articuno has an ancient trait which has the plus effect, allowing us to take an extra prize card when we take a knockout with this Articuno. Unfortunately though, Articuno's attack, which does damage, Tri-Edge, only does a base of 20, and then we have to flip 3 coins and do 40 for each. So with the Alter Creation, that's going to become a base of 50 at least, which is, it's better. But then using the combination of flipping and also our damage modifying muscle band makes it so that we can do almost 200 damage with this Articuno if we flip all heads. In order to make sure that we flip all heads, we have the Victini here with Victini's ability, Victory Star, and that's going to allow us to reflip for our attack if we don't get the outcome that we want, and we maybe only get 1 or no heads, then we can reflip and try and get all 3 heads. And to combo with this meme to make it even more spicy, we have this Jirachi Prism Star. If it's in our prize cards face down and we take it as a prize, we can put it onto our bench and take an additional prize card. So say for example we knock out an opposing Pokemon like an EX, GX or V, which gives up 2 prizes, then with our Alter Creation and Articuno, we're going to be able to take 4 prize cards. If one of those prize cards is this Jirachi Prism Star, then we're going to be able to take an additional prize card. That's 5 prize cards in a single turn. That's the dream that we're going to try and pull off. It doesn't tend to happen because for some reason the deck is very janky, but to try and mitigate this, we do have a bunch of consistency in the trainer cards. We're maxing out on 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Quick Ball, 4 Trainer's Mail, we've got the 4 V-Search, 3 N, classic setup with the 4 Versus Seeker as well. We do like to try and get off an Ultimate Ray when we can, so with the attack cost here we can attach Double Dragon, use the GX and then attach a Water Energy to try and use the Ultimate Ray to power up at least one Articuno. Preferably we could get multiple Articuno set up this way, and that's also going to allow us to get some damage on the board, hopefully get some knockouts along the way. We do also have the computer search here, Guzman Hala, to search out our tools, stadiums and our Double Dragon if we need it in the early game, but for the most part it's a dead card in the mid to late game, so we only play 1 copy, as well as the 1 copy of Chaotic Swell, so that we can kind of combat the opposing stadium. Since we don't really have a preferred stadium, we could play something like a Brooklet Hill or something like that, but we don't have a lot of space in the deck left over from the consistency trainers, so I've just went with the 1 Chaotic Swell. If you enjoyed this video at any point, be sure to give it a like, as it really helps out me and the channel, and let's get into a couple of games. Hopefully we can meme our opponents and take a whole bunch of extra prizes. Starting off our first match here, we do have a favourable hand, and it'll be interesting to see what we're up against, considering my opponent has got Pikarom as well as a Boltund, so they'll be looking to go in hard with that Pikarom, most likely trying to use the Tag Bolt, which would be pretty irritating for us, since they'd be able to snipe off an Articuno or maybe like a Tapu Lele, so we're going to want to avoid putting down any kind of liabilities onto our bench. But we are set up here for the GX attack on the following turn, which is good. Also having a draw supporter on our starting hand, which is very nice. My opponent's going to start off with the tag call, getting out some tag team cards, just looking to get the Mewtwo here though. They play the Quick Ball, discarding a Quick Ball to get a Jirachi. So it looks like my opponent's playing a very standard kind of list, but they've just brought it over to Expanded. Try it out, fair enough. You see the Big Charm going onto the Mewtwo, so I guess they're going to be wanting to go in with Mewtwo as much as possible. It's a very popular deck in Standard, Mewtwo with Pikarom. You see Jirachi using Stellar Wish for Boss's Orders. And we just have our simple game plan for ADP, just using our Altered Creation GX attack as we do with every match that you play with ADP. But I guess that's the whole appeal, you want to be able to take extra prizes, you want to be doing that extra damage. So having the same game plan can be nice because it's very straightforward and you can just be on autopilot, you don't have to think, you just take all your prizes at once. But we have a Trainer's Mail here. My opponent did play the Boss Orders, which is a bit of a nuisance, but we can hopefully find a Float Stone to get out of this. We'll attach our Double Dragon Energy, and do we want to use Super Rod for 1 energy? It's probably better than using Ultra Ball, so we might as well put the energy back into the deck, since we only have a finite amount of energy. And we don't get into the Float Stone, unfortunately, just a bunch of Double Dragons, as well as a Victini, so we'll have to pass it over to my opponent, hopefully getting the GX attack off next turn. But since my opponent used Boss's Orders, it also means that they are not drawing as optimally as they could be, so really we're both just a turn behind, and it works out equally. My opponent getting the Professor Research there, also switching into Boltund, so they're going to want to use Electrify and get some energy into play. Most likely going onto that Mewtwo. And here is the Electrify. And yep, there we go. 1 energy and 2 energy onto the Mewtwo and Mew tag team. We're going to be wanting to get a Double Dragon onto a second ADP because that's going to have the most hit points for us, and I think that's going to be very useful to try and get at least 1 ultimate ray off, preferably 2. Also just stunning the deck here in the hopes that we can find our Float Stone, and making use of Research here over the N because we want to see as many cards as possible, and N would be shuffling those cards back in. We have a Chaotic Spell here, which is nice. I don't really want to make use of the Professor's Letter, but we only have a Trainer's Mail and we don't get it off of the Trainer's Mail, unfortunately. So we'll just again pass to my opponent here. And we're really struggling in this match considering we've gone a couple of turns without being able to use our GX attack. My opponent's going to be able to get ahead and start using that Full Blitz attack, powering up even more energy and getting the first knockout here. It's going to be great for them. We do see a Marnie at the very least, although we don't need the Float Stone anymore since they're going to get the knockout, but we at least put those energy that we had back into the deck, which is nice. We see another Double Dragon energy, so we can attach that to our ADP, and we could just start using our Ultimate Ray and not bother with the GX attack since we're so late into the game. We could just start using Ultimate Ray to power up Articunos, and then go in with those Articuno and hopefully take multiple prize cards. Since my opponent does have so many multiple prize Pokemon, it's going to be useful to try our best to just get these knockouts in there as quickly as possible. We get a Guzman Hala, which is not particularly useful, but we'll just attach a Muscle Band and use N. Shuffling our hand in, seeing what we get. We get an Articuno, which is just what we were looking for. There's no way that I'm putting down the Tapu Lele because it's going to get sniped. Although in saying that, putting down the Articuno is most likely going to get sniped as well. So I don't think we're going to be using our Ultimate Ray for the full effect. We'll maybe just put down one energy. Because if they do go and snipe Articuno, we don't want to be losing the Pokemon as well as the energy here. But it at least also sets us up for an Ultimate Ray on the following turn, so that we can get a 3 prize knockout on this Mewtwo tag team. So my opponent goes for the Tag Bolt here, doing 200 to the active as well as 170 to my benched ADP, which is fair enough. Means that they don't get the knockout at least, so we do have a chance here to be taking a bunch of prize cards. I think we're going to be wanting to put down this Floatstone, as well as the Water Energy, and we can just use Ultimate Ray once again, get the knockout here and put another energy onto our Articuno, and also thinning the deck is pretty nice. We get our 3 prize cards here. Trainer's Mail and Muscle Band are very useful, as well as the N is reasonable. We'd preferably like to get an Articuno here. We do have one in discard, and having used that Super Rod earlier, we only have 2 available to us, unfortunately. Maybe it's an idea to increase the amount of recovery that we have, but considering the list is already so tight with consistency cards, it would be pretty difficult to get anything else in here. You just want to be using our GX attack. You see our opponent's trying to set up some additional attackers that they can use here. Looks like they're wanting to go in with the Bolt Storm with Boltund. I see a Dedenne coming down so that they can draw some more cards, discarding a fairly large hand size that they had there. Getting rid of the Raichu, which is interesting. They certainly could have used that against our ADP, as well as the bunch of supporters and the energy there that was on the Mewtwo. We see a Koga's Trap, which you don't see that very often, poisoning us and also confusing us. Not really a big deal, as we can actually just retreat here. We could go into our other ADP, or we could go into Articuno. Depends upon if my opponent gets to switch out to attack us, which they don't, which is very good for us. And unfortunately we don't have any Field Blower to get rid of our own Muscle Band, so we are forced to use the energy to manually retreat our active if we want to retreat here. I think also making use of our Lysander is going to be good. So currently Ultimate Ray is only doing 150 since we've not used our GX attack. So we have to keep that in mind, but we have Muscle Band, so we could do 150 to a Dedenne, and we'd only be taking 2 prize cards on that, unfortunately. But it's better than nothing, so I think we're going to retreat here, go into other ADP, we shall attach our Muscle Band, use Lysander, and we'll bring up this Dedenne here, and let's Trainer's Mail. Hopefully we get a Quick Ball, just an Ultra Ball, but we can still make use of that. And my opponent concedes, so they must felt like that they were going to go too far behind on prize cards, which is understandable. And we'll get another win with the ADP deck, ADP being super powerful, and even without taking extra prize cards, it's a great deck. My opponent has the Magneton. They went first and just attached an energy, which is fine by me. We do have the Arceus Dialga Palkia starting us off. Unfortunately we don't have any double dragon energy, so we could just use Tapu Lele here, get out Guzmanhala, which is exactly what I think I'm going to do, just so that we can guarantee ourselves that double dragon, since sure we could hopefully draw into it with the research, but at least using Guzmanhala with this route gives us it guaranteed. So we use the bonus effect here. We'll get rid of N as well as the water energy here. Obviously want to keep a water energy in hand so that we can use that ultimate ray on the following turn, and getting the muscle band here could be useful if my opponent has something big. Put down the chaotic swell and go with that ultimate ray GX attack. My opponent goes for the Pokemon Fan Club. Hopefully this gives us a little bit of insight as to what they're playing. They get the Jirachi as well as a Zacian. Now with the Magneton down there, they'll most likely be playing the Magnezone, which accelerates metal energy. That would be my guess anyway, considering that they're playing Zacian. But we've seen a Pokemon communication there, shuffling in a Dedenne. So they're looking to get another Pokemon, perhaps that Magneton, maybe something else, but it is just the Magneton, so they most likely have the rare candy in their hand already, or they're at least trying to search it out. See a Crushing Hammer getting tails, thank goodness. Crushing Hammer is just a horrible card. I mean, sure, it's fun to play, but playing against it when your opponent has it, really not my thing. Not a fun time whatsoever, but my opponent's digging here for the rare candy, hoping that they get it off the Stellar Wish. And they also got an attachment on that session, so they're a little bit closer to powering it up, but looks like my opponent just has the air balloon and they're going to be whiffing that rare candy here. They do have the Intrepid Sword, at least to draw them a couple cards and get towards it in the following turn. And we can use our Ultimate Ray here, which is going to be good. Trainer's Mail getting us a Quick Ball is the ideal card so that we can Ultimate Ray onto a Articuno, as well as being able to put this Muscle Band onto a valid target, because as much as it's useful on ADP, I'd much rather have it on an Articuno. We also got a second Articuno here I'm going to put down just in case my opponent plays an N or Marnie, something of that sort. And we don't really need to play any of these other cards, so we can just settle with an Ultimate Ray for that 180 damage and getting 3 energy onto our Articuno. We're going to split them up a little bit just in case my opponent plays something like Lysander, tries to stall us, then we do at least have that energy split up so that we can retreat into something else or attach an energy to the active. So my opponent is promoting that Zacian. I guess they're just wanting to try and protect the Magneton that they have on the bench there, since the Zacian isn't powered up and Metal Saucer only goes to the bench, so they're really just wanting to protect their bench Pokemon. Looks like they also have a Lucario Melmetal here. Its GX attack is very much the opposite of our GX attack, as it reduces damage done to their Pokemon by 30. Could be very irritating as well if they use the full effect, since it would discard all energy on my active Pokemon, but hopefully we're able to take out their Pokemon first since we're taking extra prize cards. Arceus Dialga Palkia is just really powerful in any format, being able to take additional prize cards on your opponent and getting the first knockout. It's really crucial and puts you ahead of the prize race to the point where your opponent is forced to concede because they fall far too far behind. We see another Intrepid Sword from my opponent. They did get the evolution, so they'll be able to get the Magnezone out on this following turn at least. We can put this Victini down. We could actually get a second ADP into play, which could be nice just to make use of this double dragon energy, which I think is what I'm going to go for here. Don't really want to put down this Dedenne as it's just going to clog our bench and we're not going to be making use of it. We did see the Jirachi there as well, which is a bit of a shame, so we're not going to be able to make use of that, and we can happily just fill our bench here, because if Jirachi was in our prize cards we would have to keep bench space open, of course. But we can just hit here for 180. My opponent's not doing a huge amount, so we can just hit into them, no problem. And we'll completely power up both of our Articuno, and we have the energy in hand for our other Arceus Dialga Palkia should we need to attack with that, or even Tapu Lele going in with an energy drive. So we have the Trainer's Mail, hopefully that will get us into a supporter on this following turn, and as I said, my opponent does get the Magnezone there, attaching another energy to their active, so they're going to be wanting to attack with Zacian at some point, but considering it already has damage on it, we can hopefully take a nice knockout on it with our Articuno, since the odds are that we're going to be able to get enough heads to get the knockout there, since they only have, what, 60, 70 HP, and Articuno can easily hit that with a single heads. Of course, if they get the GX attack off and start reducing damage by 30, that's going to mitigate the damage that we're doing, since we're doing an additional 30, and we're going to be back to doing our base damage if that happens. Looks like my opponent is getting an attack off here though, since they have the Magnezone accelerating extra metal energy into play. And they're going to use Pokemon Communication to get another Pokemon out from their deck. They get a Dedenne, so they're looking to draw more cards, perhaps get more metal energy or some more attackers into play. We see a second Crushing Hammer, getting heads on that Crushing Hammer as well, discarding our double Dragon energy. That's a bit unfortunate. Third Crushing Hammer, getting another heads, also getting rid of our double Dragon energy. So we're going to be forced to use a Float Stone on these coming turns. That's the only way that we're going to be able to retreat, as ADP here has a 3 retreat cost. So we unfortunately can't just attach and retreat. But we get an N, which is a good start. Would allow us to see a few more cards. Trainer's Mail here, only finding a couple of not very useful cards at the moment. We'll take the Muscle Band just to thin it out of the deck, and we'll attach that. And I think we can just attach a Water Energy onto our bench, although if we do get a double Dragon then we could attach it to the active. I think that is the play that we would much rather go for, so we'll play in. We're only seeing 4 cards here and having to shuffle in, which is not ideal in the slightest, and as expected we don't get into the cards that we need here, so we're going to have to give our opponent a turn. While they can't attack with Zacian, they do have the Air Balloon, which means that they can just retreat into Lucario Melmetal and use that GX attack to reduce damage. Alternatively, they could attack into us and get a knockout. Then my opponent's going to be able to take 3 prize cards anyway at that point. Although we do have the Lysander, so we could Lysander up that Zacian. My opponent is healing 60 damage from it, picking it down to 120, but it only has 100 HP remaining still, which is a very reasonable amount for Articuno to take a knockout on. My opponent's trying to put a Stadium card into play, but that gets automatically bumped from the Chaotic Swell. And it looks like my opponent is just opting to take that knockout with the Lucario Melmetal and getting an energy onto itself. So they'll be able to get 3 prize cards here. But as I say, we have the Lysander, so we can take the Lysander and use that on Zacian to take multiple prize cards with our Articuno here. So we'll actually be taking 2 prize cards because it's a Zacian, and then an additional for multi-creation, and an additional because of the plus instant trait. And this is why the deck is a whole load of fun to use and super powerful. I'd highly recommend you checking it out, as we get 3 heads in a row, doing the maximum amount, 190 damage with Articuno, getting a nice clean knockout on that Zacian, taking 4 prize cards to clean up the game, only needing 2 knockouts to win the game. And that is the power of this deck. Super fun when it works, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.